Good evening. Thank you for taking time out of your schedules to be with us this evening. We here at the City of South Fulton are delighted to have you hear from us. There are a lot of things that have been out there in the public, misinformation, disinformation. The goal for tonight is to offer some truths and to tell you a little bit about the things that are going on as it relates to public safety, millage rate cap, and the things that really matter to you as the residents of the City of South Fulton. And so without further ado, I'd love to welcome the pastor, the shepherd of this house, Reverend Gregory Pollard, to welcome us this evening.
If I was my normal self, I said, keep it going, keep it. I was just saying, but blessings to have you all in the place that we call in South Fulton where life comes together. It is a place where we endeavor to live Christ, seek the salvation of the unsaved, foster unity of faith, and promote a more excellent way of living. And until I'm told I'm wrong, we're the oldest resident in the city of South Fulton since 1872. And so maybe someone can do some research and tell me that that is not accurate, but until then, we'll hold that. So let me also say before we begin, and I want to offer a word of prayer for our city and for those who work and labor every day to ensure that things are moving in the way it should. I want to thank each and every one of you for the sacrifices that you make when you leave your home to come and to serve as well. Can we give it up for our council and our mayor? And let's just bow our heads in a word of prayer. Eternal God, our Father, we thank you for your loving kindness, tender benevolent mercies. Thank you for our city. We thank you for every high, every low. We thank you for every trial, every tribulation. But then, God, we thank you for seeing us through every stance. And so, God, as we come together tonight to hear the information that will be beneficial to cast us into the future, to be a better city, to be a better equipped city, we ask for your presence in now and forever. Bless all of us. Touch every home in South Fulton that believes and receives your name. Bless this place as you've always done. We give it honor to you, and we give grace and mercy to all. In your name we pray. Let's say amen.
Our why is very simple. In 2007, Felix Roberts was killed in a house fire. The NIOSH report came out and said inadequate training and inadequate training facilities. We made promises and responsibilities as a city to make sure that our public safety has a training facility, and today's the day. Just this year, we had Captain Helio Garcia get killed while on duty. We had Lieutenant Charles Cook that was shot. We don't have facilities to train. Bottom line, our sole duty is to make sure that we invest in our employees, give them the training, the knowledge, skills, and ability that they can go home to their loved ones in the morning.
Roll call room also doubles as an interview room for our CID detectives. We don't have any other place in the city for interviews to be conducted with murder suspects, rape suspects, and there's no way to contain them in there if needed as well. So it prevents an officer safety challenge for officers and our detectives. I share an office with Captain Norris, and then the other office, 20 supervisors share 2 desks in that office. And we have 1 bathroom as well, Captain Norris. We got 1 bathroom that inmates have to use as well, and our officers if they have to come to the restroom.
Regardless, these guys still come to work every day and get it done for us.
Absolutely.
They don't hesitate. It's tough conditions, but they still come. They answer calls for service. They do everything they need to do to keep this community safe.
And this is why we're doing a tour. We want people to understand what we're doing, how we're doing it, why we're doing it, and showing them that we're doing it in phases that can be fiscally responsible and, community facing.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your South Fulton Mayor, Kobe.
Thank you. First, giving honor to God, who is the head of my life and my ancestors. To the angel of his house, Dr. Gregory Pollard, elder saints and friends, welcome to the city of South Fulton. This town hall has been several weeks in the making, but last night we were here having a tech rehearsal, and the city manager, Ms. Subadan, came to me and said, we have this video, and we're not sure where to put it. I saw the video and I said, at the beginning, would all of our public safety officers please stand? South Fulton Fire, EMS, law enforcement. If you're not in South Fulton, if you're in any municipality, ladies and gentlemen, these brave men and women who run towards the things that we run away from, they are why we are here tonight. Would you please give them a round of applause? Thank you. Thank you. You may be seated. We're going to have some courageous conversation tonight. I'll remind you that we are in a house of God. And no matter what happens, I want you to remember this video and these men and women. This is why we are here. An African proverb that says, if you want to go quickly, go alone. And if you want to go far, go together. Ladies and gentlemen, we were supposed to vote on this as a council last week, but we put it off for 2 more weeks so that we could all go together. We wanted to hear from the elders in our village, and we wanted to do this in decency and order and all go together because we believe that each one of us cares deeply about the future of our city. So we're going to have a couple of presentations from our public safety personnel and from our staff just to separate the facts from some of the myths. People have been on stages saying all kinds of things. We're going to give you all of the facts, and then we're going to give you the floor so that we can hear your questions and concerns. And we're not going to move forward until we can all move forward together. So with that, I'm going to bring up our fire chief, Mr. Chad Jones. Are you coming to make this first presentation? I'm sorry, Mr. Jubal Rogers from South Fulton Police.
Thank you, Mayor. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. As stated, my name is Major Jubal Rogers with the police department. As you saw from the video earlier, that kind of gave a real world perspective of what the police department and the fire department are experiencing on a daily basis. Just, ladies and gentlemen, imagine calling 911 and our officers and detectives are responding from a police precinct in the city of Atlanta. Or also imagine calling 911 and Fulton County government, who runs our public safety answering point or dispatch, puts you on hold while you're reporting an emergency. Those are some of the operational realities we deal with on a daily basis in the city of South Fulton. But now is that opportunity to change that narrative. Got the slide coming up. Picture this, a state-of-the-art 75,000 square foot police headquarters that doesn't just house our officers, but it transforms how we serve our community. This isn't just a building, it's a beacon of support and progress and a symbol of South Fulton's commitment to public safety. This facility will feature a dedicated police headquarters with an indoor pistol range, ensuring that our officers are able to train adequately and frequently. Currently, we have to rely on Fulton County government to use their shooting range. We're on their schedule, so that prevents challenges for our officers to train at the time they need to. Enhance interview and investigation areas to treat our victims and suspects with dignity and respect. As you saw in the video, we have to put our prisoners in the middle of our roll call room. It presents challenges both to CID and our patrol operations, and also upgraded detention facilities that meet modern standards for justice and humanity. As we mentioned also during the tour, we had 2 prisoners escape from our Roosevelt precinct due to not having a Sally port to adequately detain them as required. But here's what sets us apart. This is not just going to be a police station. We're creating a community hub. Walking trails where families can exercise safely, a dog park where neighbors can meet neighbors. You'll probably also see Mayor Kobe out there with his first dog, Zion. And also internet exchange zones, which will provide secure spaces for online transactions. This investment is a vision to every resident. Your safety matters, your community matters, and also you matter. For too long, we've operated and inherited inadequate facilities from Fulton County government that doesn't aspire who we need to be. South Fulton deserves a police force that operates from the heart of our community on National, not from the sidelines in the city of Atlanta. The question isn't whether we can afford to build this facility. The question is, can we afford not to? Our families, our future, our identity as South Fulton depends on this investment. Let's build more than a headquarters. Let's build hope, safety, and community pride under one magnificent roof. Now is the time. Next, I'll bring up Fire Chief Chad Jones.
Thank you, Major. As I move to the next slide, you'll see the future fire headquarters and training facility. This vision, this project started back in 2021. We were able to acquire the 51 acres off Cascade Palmetto in 2022. We also set up a conceptual design in 2022. 3 years later, we're bringing it to you, ready to move forward. This vision started with one simple mission: to train not only our public safety, but an area to train our citizens, an area that we can come together as a city and work together to move forward. You'll see on this 50,000 square foot building, which will house the fire department headquarters, a 911 center, as Major Rogers has already spoken about. We have issues with Fulton County 911. We get complaints quite a bit that people call and they get put on hold. It's unacceptable. We want to control that. Also, it'll be fiscally responsible. We'll start drawing our 911 fees into the city instead of them going to Fulton County. Emergency Operations Center, a place that we come together when our city has a disaster to move us forward, to be resilient. It'll also have 14 educational rooms, including simulation rooms. Those simulation rooms are vital for us to be able to train our personnel in real-life scenarios without putting them in harm's way. There will be a gym for us to be healthy. There will also be an auditorium for us to hold events like this and others in. We'll have the state-of-the-art burn building, training tower, again, where our fire and police will train real-life scenario. We can also have disaster drills there, bring the community in to do CERT programs and other programs. We'll have a logistics building. Any of those that went on the tour obviously saw that we have equipment that's outside in Connex boxes, also under tarps. We're not able to buy in bulk, which would be fiscally responsible, to set our city up for disaster relief, because we just don't have the space unless we rent it. Lastly, it'll have a driving course, something that'll be a one-of-a-kind in this area. Again, we have to go outside the city to find an area for us to drive our big vehicles and train. Our vision is all about training. We have already set it up that it'll be a regional site, so we'll work with our municipal partners around our area to train to be able to respond better, quicker, and provide the utmost service to you. We'll be around for any other questions. At this time, I'll turn it over to the City Manager, Sharon Subadan.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Major. Good evening, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We're glad to have you here to be able to talk about our projects and to answer your questions. So I'm not going to be long, but I do feel like it's important for you to have a sense of the projects. So police headquarters is $55.8 million. Fire headquarters is $58 million. $2.2 million in issuance costs. That includes contingency in case we have to use additional outside counsel. Right now, we're planning on using our inside city attorney's office to be able to make that savings. As you know, or as you have probably heard, the city has accumulated a fund balance over time. That's like money in your savings account. And so we are committing $20 million of that funding to the project. The plan is for a $96 million bond, which is like a mortgage. Well, we're planning on having a term of 20 years. Right now, the interest rate is between 4.25, 4.3. Until we get approval from council and we lock it in, that rate continues to float. And we will be able to refinance our loan, our bond, in 5 years if the interest rates are more favorable. I'm going to ask the tech to go back a slide for me, because I do want to, even though Chief Chad went over the history of the project, I feel like it's important for the community to realize, because sometimes we hear, why are we doing this now? Why are we rushing? It seems like we just woke up this morning and we decided we want to go out and leverage all this money in debt. But as you heard Chief Chad say, in 21 and 22, the land was purchased, both at Cascade Palmetto and on Old National Highway. I was charged when I came on board with bringing these facilities online. The council, to a person and the mayor, made it clear that was one of the highest priorities they had for me. The first thing we did is to go to our state legislature, our state legislative delegation, and ask them to create a public facilities authority for the city of South Fulton. The reason for that is because that is a body that can leverage debt in order to build public facilities. Since then, we've tightened our financial policies, we've improved, and we've adopted a new strategic plan, all positioning us for such a time as this, as they would say. We've gone through facility planning, making sure we're not duplicating efforts in our training facilities. So fire and police are not going to have duplicative facilities at both places. We have secured project management professionals. We've heard that was a concern. Do we have the ability to manage? Well, we've hired people who will be helping us to manage these projects. We've done an RFQ for qualified bidders, an RFP for construction contracts, and we've collaborated with our financial advisor on how best to fund the projects. And that's partly why we're here tonight. Skip forward 2 slides for me, please. So I want to get this out there, and I'm going to ask you all to say it after me. The city of South Fulton is not raising the millage rate. Can I hear you say that? Yay, you sound really good. Thank you. Sound convincing. Our millage rate is 12.399. It was 12.399 in 24, 23, 24, and 25. The City Council will vote on that millage rate next week, Tuesday, less than a week from today. We have no interest, we have no need, we have no reason to increase the millage rate. But we'll talk about the millage rate cap and why it's important. Next slide, please. So I'm going to bring up our financial advisor, but I'm going to take just a minute of personal privilege to share how I interpret the raising of the millage rate cap in regular people terms. Everybody okay with talking in regular people terms? Straight talk? So raising the millage rate cap to me, it's like if you were gonna buy something big, a house or a car, something really important, investment property, and you had the opportunity, you have a good credit score, right? But you had the opportunity to raise your credit score by 100 points. If you could raise your credit score by 100 points, does that translate to you that you would get better terms, a better interest rate, and you would put yourself in essentially a really great position? What do you think? And that's a little bit, trying to put it into real life terms that anybody can understand. That's why we're asking to make a change to our millage rate cap, because it puts the city in an incredibly strong financial position to be able to leverage the best terms and rates, not just for us, but for all of you. Because whatever we do, we know it impacts you, because at the end of the day, this is not my money, this is your money, this is our money. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Ed. He will talk a little bit about what the millage rate cap is, why it matters, and then there are a few more slides we will go through, but we're not gonna stay long on this presentation tonight because we're here to hear from you. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Subadan. Good evening, everybody. I feel she said she was going to give real people talk, and I took it personal. She did it right before I got up here. So next slide, please. So let's talk about a millage rate cap. The city manager gave it to you in real talk. The legislature creates cities. And way back in 1733, when Savannah was created, from 1733 to today, the legislature creates cities. And the way they do it is they pass a bill creating a city charter. And every city has a different city charter. And in that city charter, one of the things that they put in there is the ability to levy a property tax. Some cities have a cap. The way property taxes work, we take the fair market value of your house, 100% value, times 40%. And that number, that 40%, is called the assessed value. And the city and the county and the school board levy a millage rate against that. 1 mill is 0.001. So 0.001 times the 40% value of your home is how they calculate your taxes. And there are 537 cities in Georgia. Only about 10 have millage rate caps. Most of them are the new cities. One of them is the city of Decatur, which is an old city, 1849, and they're so old they had a constitutional amendment. Their taxes are levied on a 50% value, not a 40% value. So when they have an 18 mil cap, that's equivalent to like 25 mils for anybody else that has a 40% value. But as I was doing research for Madam City Manager of the cities that have a millage rate cap, Decatur had an 18 mil cap. And Mayor and Council liked that, and they wanted me to present it to y'all as option B. So option A is remove the cap, option B is raise the cap. This is a cap in the city charter. The myth, removing the cap means increasing the taxes. The city manager and Althea Lord Bradley, the finance director for the city, when they built the budget for FY26, and for your city, that's October 1, 2025 to September 30th of 2026. They're on the same fiscal year as the federal government. And for that fiscal year budget, they appropriated money, they budgeted money for this year's debt service. And so this 12.399 mils already raises enough money together with the other revenues of the city to pay the debt service. And so raising the millage rate cap doesn't mean we're increasing taxes at all. Next slide, please, sir. The current millage rate cap is 13.469. We're currently at 12.399. The difference between that times the city's tax chest is about $5.5 million. The annual payment on that $96 million bond issue for 20 years at 4.3% is about $7 million. While the city can afford that without having to raise a millage rate at all, when investors look at it, they say that's all they've got available to pay police and fire, and if we have a recession, anything happens. And so having that millage rate cap makes them not want to give us the lowest interest rate possible for that debt or lend us the whole $96 million. And so I recommended eliminating the cap altogether. Why eliminate it altogether? mayor and council have to go through a whole lot of rigmarole to raise the millage rate. If they ever want to raise it, they have to have 3 public hearings. You all show up during those hearings, and they got to face you at the next election if they raise the millage rate. And so whether I raise the cap or eliminate it, they still have to go forward with you and justify you why they're doing that. If we raise it to 18 mills, they can always raise it again. There's a thing in the Georgia Constitution called Home Rule Amendment. And so that was my recommendation. Mayor and council wanted an option B, this 18 mil cap. And so tonight we have before you to discuss eliminate the rate cap entirely or just increase it from 13.469 to 18 mils. Next slide, please. Building credit. So the city of South Fulton hired me as their financial advisor in 2017. They were created by the legislature. I think they had their first meeting maybe May or June of 2017. The then finance director, a guy by the name of Frank Millage, was paying the bills of the city with his credit card. The first year, September 30th of 2017, the city had a negative net worth, a negative savings account of $6 million. We did a tax anticipation note, a loan for the city to operate before they ever even levied a property tax. They did a tax anticipation note again in 2018. So in September 3rd, 2017, the city's fund balance was negative $6 million. In 2018, it was negative $8 million. Then finally in 2019, it was $10 million positive. In 2020, it was $22 million positive. Today, it's $102 million. The city has done a phenomenal job, and it lowered its millage rate. It used to be 12.899, and now for the last 3 years, it's been 12.399. So the city has been building its credit, doing a great job with its finances, but it has this millage rate cap. Of Georgia's 537 cities, only about 10 have a cap. And so when South Fulton is not, say, competing with the other cities, but they were at a disadvantage because they have this millage rate cap, and lenders would look at them differently. So when we decided to go out for bids for this $96 million bond issue, we went out to about 25 or 30 banks. We received about 7 proposals, and the best was Regions Bank at 4.3%. Because it was in June or July, because we knew that we wouldn't be approving all of this until August or September, I indexed it to the 10-year U.S. Treasury. So that interest rate is floating. And so if the Federal Reserve were to lower rates before we go here, the interest rate will decline. And it has declined. When we picked Regions Bank, the rate then was 4.33. And you can see it has fallen some as the overall Wall Street marketplace factors in that the Fed is going to lower rates. Next slide, please. Why now? So you all started in 22 and purchased the land. I'm satisfied there were community meetings about what you wanted in a police headquarters facility, what you wanted in a fire headquarters facility and a fire training facility. And as the mayor and council designed those 2 facilities and get the blueprints and then put it out for bid, they got a guaranteed maximum price. Y'all know during COVID, you had the supply chain stuff and inflation hit almost 10%. Construction inflation was about double that in places, steel, concrete, things you had to get from China. And so I was drawn up because we had the millage rate cap. Mayor and council had not decided whether they were going to eliminate it or raise it. And we had about a $70 million borrowing capacity underneath that cap. And so we have $102 million in savings. I was worried that the guaranteed maximum price might be higher. Give you an example. Clayton County, a client of mine, Clayton County Schools, is building an arena, and they thought it was going to cost about $80 million. When they bid it out, the guaranteed maximum price came in at $130 million, and they value engineered it down to $114 million. Another client of mine, City of Jonesboro, they built a new city hall. When they bid it out, They expected it to be 15 million, it came in at 20 million. And so when the guaranteed maximum price bids came in, I think it was June the 4th, something like that, it was that $112 million that Ms. Subadan showed you. And that was great. It wasn't all that inflation. If we don't sell bonds today and take that guaranteed maximum price, we'll have to rebid it at some later date, and it may be higher. And so it wasn't that we decided to rush it up and go borrow 96 million. It was just the evolution of time that once the guaranteed maximum price came in and we knew we could afford it, then we sent out bids for the bonds. If we don't do it, if we don't do this bond issue now, Mayor and Council decides that they want to put it off for whatever reason, more than likely we'll have to rebid the construction, get a new guaranteed maximum price, and we subject ourselves to inflation. Now, I don't know how many of y'all read Truth Social. I don't. But he texts on tweets on Truth Social every morning. And the world swoons depending on what he tweets that morning. And you know, with the tariffs and all that sort of business, it's chaotic at best. And so if we don't move forward now, we're just subject to whatever it is he tweets day to day. Next slide. Millage rate caps. I told you there's 530 cities, about 10 have a millage rate cap. Some examples, Sandy Springs has a millage rate cap. I think it's 4.7 mils. Their tax digest is 10 billion. And so 1 mil on their tax digest raises $10 million. They have a budget of $1 billion. Our tax digest, 1 mil is $5 million, and so we have about a $5 billion tax digest. So they're about twice as big as we are. One of the things that's unique about Sandy Springs, they've been a client of mine as well. They started in, I don't know what, 02 maybe? They were the first new city. There was a lady named Eva Galambos, and she worked the legislature for 20 years before she could finally get a new city created. And in it was a millage rate cap. A Republican legislature loves to put millage rate caps on cities. They hate property taxes. Any of y'all remember House Bill 581 that we had to go through this past year? It was all to do about property taxes. So Eva Galambos, she was just sharp as a tack. She was 80 when she became mayor. She thought that millage rate cap means that's what she ought to levy. So she just levied 4.7 mils, and they've never changed it. And that 4.7 mils was producing a $60 to $80 million profit every year, dropping to their bottom line. So when Sandy Springs built their City Hall and Performing Arts Center up on Roswell Road, they only borrowed $140 million. They put $80 million of their own money with it because they had it. They do all kinds of capital projects out of cash. And it's because they levy that 4.7 mils on a tax digest twice as big as ours, and it produces excess funds every year, and they spend it on capital. Their council have discussed it, where you have the calculation for the rollback every year, where as your tax digest increases, they can roll it back. Sandy Springs hasn't rolled it back. And so they're generating significantly amount of more money because their tax digest is twice as big as ours. Next slide, please. That's for you, isn't it? And she's been trying to get me to hush.
So like I said, we're here tonight to hear from you. We want to give you the information, and we want to be able to answer your questions. And so I have been speaking about the choices we make today shape the impact that we have tomorrow. I've been saying that since May when we did our State of the City. It's our theme of our budget. And so I just want everybody to remember that. You know, some things it just never feels like it's a good time to do it, but sometimes we really do need to be bold and take a bold step on behalf of our future. So thank you all. That brings us to the end of our presentations, and we're going to go ahead and turn it over to the next phase, which is to hear from you.
Thank you, thank you. Let me help you down. You got these hills on. All right. Who is helping with these comment cards? Could you just raise your hands? I see our clerk in the back. We have some comment cards. If you want to ask a question, we're going to have you come down to the mic to ask your own question. We're just asking you to just give us a little information. We're trying to group the cards together by topic so that we can move this in some sort of order. Our clerk, Mr. Adams, is there. Would you just raise your hand? If you need a card or if you have a card that you want to give to him, that we'll bring it up here. We're going to start with a question from one of the members of our original Transition Commission for Cityhood, Mr. Kevin Grimes. Grimes? Yes, you can come right down here to the mic, thanks.
Good evening, everyone. So I want to start by saying that I 100% support both projects, absolutely. I'm a firm believer that we should do it now. My position is we should do it in a way that doesn't conflict with the charter and doesn't conflict with the city's views on voters' rights. My concern also is about the charter. Even if the city can do this through home rule, I have concern if it violates other areas of the charter, particularly at section 310B, where it outlines the limits and the powers of the council. The charter rate section, millage rate, it specifically says that the council's responsibility is to identify what the millage rate cap should be and then let the citizens vote. In order to get the home rule, which you absolutely have the right to do, you would have to draft an ordinance to get there. Section 310B of the charter says the council cannot draft any ordinances that are inconsistent with the charter. So for me, I don't understand how drafting an ordinance to transfer the power from the citizens up to the council is consistent with the essence of the charter. That is my concern, not home rule, just drafting that ordinance that's contradictory to the existing charter. Secondly, May 13th, this council passed a resolution on Voters' Rights Act. And what this city said was, if Washington won't protect voters' rights, that movement to restore them must start right here at home in local communities across the country. You spoke out against this because of President Trump. And if we're going to remove the cap under the guise of public safety and saving money, that kind of voids out the resolution on May 13th. Because the president will tell you that the reason there are troops in DC is for public safety. He will tell you that everything he's doing with ICE is for public safety. And he will tell you that everything he's doing with Doge and cutting jobs is to save money. So I digress because I just think we need to really think about the messages that we're sending.
Thank you. We're going to give this question to our attorney. You asked a legal question. We have our bond attorney here, Mr. Douglas Selby.
Good evening, Doug Selby. I'm a neighbor too, so I live off of Cascade Road. Speaker is absolutely correct. The charter has a provision that in its initial adoption by the Georgia General Assembly has a millage cap. The power to adjust the millage cap is vested in either the council or the people. And so Georgia law provides a mechanism for your city, elected city council to amend the charter. There are cases that we've identified for the city attorney that suggest this. This has been done in other communities as well. And so because the power to amend the charter is actually in a general law, that's going to provide the guidance for the adoption of any amendment to the charter. But you've got to do it in one of two ways, and it's either through the people or through a process of adopting an ordinance at 2 regularly scheduled meetings after a notice has been provided, which is what I understand the city is planning to explore. So I'm happy to answer any specific question, but it is provided for in Georgia law. Thank you, Mayor.
Stay right there. We got a couple of questions about bond financing. I'm going to call up Deanna Repress and Andy Foster.
Good evening, everyone, and I would like to just say shout out to South Fulton because you guys have really showed up to really get as much information as possible without making really like a bunch of assumptions. And I also wanted to start by saying I think no comment, regardless to whether you're for or against it, should our men and women who serve this community on a day in and day basis or and night basis really take offense or take anything personal about anything that comes up, because I think anyone who may not agree with what's happening or agree with the fact that there should or should not be a cap is against anybody who we know run the danger, like the mayor said, when we run away from it. But outside of that, I think the conversation tonight is very relevant and it's very important. The question that I had around the bond financing specifically was, why are we putting down the $20 million? And does that mean we're buying down the rate per se? And no slight to you, Mr. Wall, but to the city itself, who else have we sought counsel from besides someone who stands to make $1 million off of it? And I get it, that's your contract and it is standard. I don't want anybody to think that that's not standard. I kind of work with some cities, so I know that that's standard, but I'm just curious to who else have we sought financing from? And then the last thing I'll say is, I think City Manager Subadan, I appreciate you using the mortgage example. I think it's something that many of us as homeowners can relate to. But the question that I have is, like, when we go to the bank and we ask for financing, they ask us for our income. And we tell them what it is. They don't ask us, do we have the ability to go back to our employer and put an unlimited cap on our income in the event that we can't make our financing. So the question I would ask is, could we potentially split this up in order to pay for what I'm gonna go to a car example, pay for this Honda now, and then once we prove that we can do this, then we can get to go back and buy that Acura or that Lexus or that Mercedes that we really want.
So who do we get other financial advice from? So I'm the city's financial advisor and have been since 2017. I represent, 120, 130 governments across Georgia. And I am the city's financial advisor. So it's my job to craft the best way to go about getting financing. I noticed in my file when I got here, we started in 2022. And I've got all these memos back and forth of different structures, how we go about getting it done, dealing with mayor and council, going to retreats with them. And so it was a laborious process of what is the best way to do it. Why did we take $20 million? And it's, you're right, with mortgages, you can buy down the interest rate. That isn't what this is. So the interest rate that we're earning on our money is about 4.3%. So when we take that $102 million of your savings, it's invested at 4.3. The odds are interest rates are going to go down. So it was better off, a better financial decision, to take some of our own money and borrow less money at 4.3% than a lot more money at 4.3. Because if you were earning 5% on your 20 million, you'd want to keep the 20 million, earn 5% and borrow more. We thought that would be the other way around. Other financial advice, we sent this transaction to 25, 30 banks, and we solicited proposals from them. I set out the terms, what I wanted, a 20-year term or a 25-year term, and I wanted a short prepayment period, because if rates do go down, I want to take advantage of getting a lower interest rate. And so we didn't do it in a vacuum. We did solicit additional advice. I think that was it. Was there any others? Did I miss anything?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Ed. And so I am not a financial advisor by trade, but I'm your city manager. I have been doing this work for 35 years. I have been doing budgets and city and county finances for 22 years. Part of the decision to put down the 20 million was my decision, because we are looking at our overall. I looked at every single payment of what we will make over the next 20 years. And I am hedging our bets that at some point it will be, the rates will go down and we will be able to refinance and get an even better rate. In an ideal world, we would have done this 2 years ago when the rates were 3%. Unfortunately, 2 years ago we weren't ready, but we're ready now. In terms of leading and managing city government, it's not as straightforward as buying the Honda and then trading up. We're pouring millions of gallons of cement into the ground and building what will be a building that ultimately will have a 60-year life at best. It could be longer. So pivoting and going to, you know, the media model and then upgrading later, part of the challenge we have now is every building we inherited from Fulton County is in disrepair. And we're pouring millions of dollars into just keeping them going. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result.
I'm gonna call up two speakers this time, Linda Brooks Cooper and Rashard Snellings. You all will come. All right, go ahead, sir.
All right, city officials are now all of a sudden concerned about getting feedback on the millage rate cap only after we start screaming about it. Great way to be reactive. I remember conversations with elected officials when I was told we should not be changing the charter, but rather we should be changing the elected officials who cannot comply with the charter as is written today. But y'all are up here defending the charter change. How quickly do we change our tone when we're running for office or re-election? We wish we could trust this city leadership, but we don't, and it's of your own doing, not ours. I'm really trying my hardest to understand how does one solicit feedback after the millage rate cap legislation is introduced as a first read just last week. Council members have independently said that they have the votes to remove the millage rate cap. So if this is the case, then why are we here tonight? Now, Sandy Springs recently achieved its AAA bond rating. I contacted the Sandy Springs mayor and he told me out of his own mouth that they do not have to increase their millage rate cap or increase the millage rate. In fact, it hasn't increased over the last 20 years. They are about to build public safety facilities, again, without making any changes to the rate or to the cap. The cap is a protection given to property owners by the state to protect us from tax increases levied by the city. Asking us to be okay with all of this stripping of our protection is not an investment, as investments typically yield profits, not financial burdens. Since we are in church, I would like to remind you of what Proverbs 29:2 states. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked rule, the people groan. We are groaning. So notice, I never said anything about not building the public safety facilities. I'm just gonna call it what it is. This was a lie that was started by city officials to confuse the public. Proverbs 12:22 tells us that lying lips are an abomination to the Lord. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Shalise Dowdy and Regina McDowell.
Yes, my name is Regina McDowell, and my concern is, first of all, when I first heard about mill rate cap, I didn't know what is mill rate cap, I asked myself, so I had to look up what it is. And I'm reiterating what the gentleman said, because I found out, just like he's brought out, the millage rate cap in Fulton County was established to provide financial stability and consistency for property owners, particularly in an area with very economic conditions. This cap ensures that property tax rates do not increase beyond certain threshold, offering protection against Sudden tax hikes that could affect homeowners, especially those on fixed incomes, such as seniors. We are seniors. And if this tax goes up, we're not gonna be able to live in Fulton County because we're gonna lose our home, foreclosure, and things of that sort. So my question is to you, and my concern for all of Fulton County residents, if the millage rate cap is raised or removed, what assurance or safeguard are in place to ensure that we will benefit as citizens, and most important, retired citizens and seniors, single parents and renters of things of that sort? Well, how that's going to protect us? Now, I agree, we do need better facilities or what have you, but we won't be here to benefit from it if our house is foreclosed.
Thank you.
Good evening. As a true native of Atlanta, my teeth were cut on Atlanta's first black mayor, Maynard Holbrook Jackson, and Atlanta's longest-serving council member, Jim Maddox. That's what I grew up with. That's what I know. And I don't understand why this leadership often is hostile when constituents raise questions about issues that are going to affect us. And like Ms. Regina just said, things are changing. In the month of April, over 300,000 black women lost their jobs. In addition, corporations are downsizing as a result of AI now coming to pass, right? So with having Metro Atlanta now also has the highest rate of homes owned by 3 corporations in the state of Georgia. With all of this, we're looking down the barrel of disaster to me. I'm listening to everyone, and I'm understanding a little bit better, but those who did come on the podium, can I get you to raise your hand if you reside in South Fulton? All of you who spoke, not us at the mic, those who got up there, raise your hand if you live in the city of South Fulton. Y'all see that, right? That's all I'm saying. We live here. And if you go back to when these cities on the north end started making cities, who carried them on their back? South Fulton did. So let's not forget that. So all we're saying is we want to keep our homes. We want to live here. We want to be here. We don't want it to be where taxes and things go up and then we can't afford our homes and then now a corporation owns it. We want to work. We just want you to stop being hostile with us and help us to understand. I will say the people that did get up to speak, you gave us understanding. But again, remember, we live here. You get to go to wherever you stay on the north side or wherever that is, but we're still here and we want to remain here. So that's all we're saying is to keep that in mind. Thank you.
All right, Madam City Manager, I think folks have some questions. And if you have a card, if you'll just bring it. We're about to, we're doing that right now. So we're going to have some folks address it. There are, while the city manager confers with, are you ready? Go ahead.
Mic check. So one of the things that the city of South Fulton brought over from Fulton County was the senior exemptions. The majority of seniors in the city of South Fulton are able to take advantage of the senior exemption. If you look at, and we exempt millions and millions and millions. I'm looking for Althea in the house. How much do we exempt? 2.6 billion is what we take off of our assessed value, and a very large percentage of that is senior exemptions. Senior exemptions, veterans exemptions. We have everybody who lives in their home gets a homestead exemption, but we layer one on top of the other. So if you look at your tax bill, Many, many, many seniors you may be paying county tax. Some of you may pay school tax, but a lot of you get an exemption for that too. And you get a significant exemption from the city of South Fulton, so you're not paying a large, if at all, a city tax. None of that changes. Many cities, when they incorporate, they pick and choose what exemptions that they take. We took everything from Fulton County in order not to impact residents as it relates to your property. Nobody here wants anyone to lose their home. Nobody here is interested in pushing out legacy residents, as we call them, and getting you replaced with massive rental owned communities. This council passes legislation to prevent that. If you've seen our planning commission meetings, they are very discerning. Their zoning meetings, they're discerning about what they allow into your city to ensure that residents who are homeowners, and we have a high percentage of homeowners living in the city of South Fulton, and we wanted to stay that way and grow.
Mayor.
Thank you. I'm going to, we have some people on the stage who do live in the city, and you haven't heard from them, so I'm going to open the floor up to them to respond to some of your questions, beginning with Enon Church member, Councilwoman Helen Zenobia Willis.
No, I actually was going to explain that what we were attempting to do was to let all residents come up, ask a question, or provide comments. And that's why we have a timer here to give each resident 2 minutes so that we can hear all your concerns, all your questions. We're sitting here writing down what you are saying so that we can respond to you. If you look at the agenda, the last thing was to hear from us. And so we were attempting to allow everybody who wanted to speak or ask a question to make this meeting more efficient. And then we were going to provide responses to your questions. So I appreciate you, Mayor, for allowing residents to get answers, but we're not going to leave here without you getting responses. So we just want to hear from you. Closed mouths don't get fed, and we heard you. That's why we pushed this meeting out to vote on, because this meeting is here, we are here for you to hear from you, and so that you can hear from us and get explanations. As far as, I just wanted Mr. Selby explain the millage rate cap. The misinformation that has been put out is that we are violating charter guidelines and violating charter rules. If we were doing that, then we could have been shut down a long time ago. Before we do anything, we are legally advised. Mr. Doug Selby just advised you that we're not doing anything illegal by removing the millage rate cap or increasing the millage rate cap. We have what you call home rules that gives us the ability to change things in our charter. I am one of the ones who worked with many residents on the legislative side to create the city. And what was understood when this charter came out of the legislative process to go to a referendum for people to vote for this to become a city, it was not a perfect charter. And so that's what I'll respond to. Before coming to this meeting, I asked the city attorney to provide me the codes that gives us the right to proceed in the manner that we are proceeding. And she has provided that information. I can't read everything that she has sent to me because of privilege information that came from my attorney, but I will be sharing that in my next newsletter and give you the codes for you to go back in the charter and read. But we're not doing anything illegal. We're just simply trying to put ourselves in the best position to do debt financing to help our public safety officers help us. And one thing I was saying, I yield. I pay taxes too. So this is my money too. And I went to school for accounting too. And I ran on the basis of being fiscally responsible. And so to raise your taxes is to raise my taxes. I don't want to pay more taxes. We are not raising taxes. We're giving the financial institutions assurance that if anything were to happen, we have the ability to raise the money to still pay them their bond note. I would like to hear from some of the people who went on this tour. They're sitting in here, and I don't want to call you out, but a lot of the residents did not go on the tour. And I would like to hear from you so that you could tell them what you saw. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna get back into these questions. I do think, though, I hear a lot of talk about Sandy Springs. We're constantly comparing ourselves and being compared to Sandy Springs. I just want to give you a couple of facts. So Sandy Springs and the city of South Fulton are roughly the same population, 112,000, 108,000. We're a few thousand people bigger, but I'm gonna get to that. Just our budget right now, our budget for last year or this year is $260 million. Anybody know what the budget for the city of Sandy Springs is? Just shout out. Hey, it's $1 billion. $1 billion. I see Mr. Johnson here. He's got a question. We're gonna have him come up in a minute, but he's a builder. You can take the same house by the same builder, John Wilden, Pulte, D.H. Horton, same square footage. You take it up to Sandy Springs, you're gonna pay twice as much for it. That's why they don't have to raise their millage rate, because their property taxes are higher, even if their millage rate is lower, right? 4.7% of $1 million house is gonna be a lot of money. So I think that I just want that to be one thing that we keep in mind. And the second part of the comparison, does anyone know how big the city of Sandy Springs is? It's about 35 square miles. Our city is 100 square miles. Sandy Springs can fit inside of Councilman Sebastian's district. So our police, our firefighters, when they're coming, we don't have a hospital on this side of town. So when they come and they beat Grady, they're coming from 10 miles away sometimes, right? Like, so there's just a lot more area to cover, and I just want us to make sure that we are comparing apples to apples. I'm not saying that I don't hear everybody. If you're not ready, you're not ready. But I want to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples. I'm going to call up Ms. Tamiko Leverett and Mr. Mike Johnson.
Greetings. I just want to say, first off, that I do believe we need public safety facilities. In working with the city, I've seen what some of the facilities look like, so I don't feel like I needed to take the tour. However, I also saw that the city does not handle their financial affairs the way they should. I'm aware that there are some discussions that are occurring that we can remove the cap or we can ask the people for their vote. My confusion is, if you're confident on what you're doing, why don't you ask the people to give their vote instead of thinking about removing the cap? Once you remove a cap, it's gone. There is no, well, we can put it back later. Once we tell somebody they can have an unlimited credit card, it's unlimited. And now we have a problem. It's hard to walk back. People have gone and gotten student loans, and they told them, you'll make enough money down the line to pay it off. But years later, people still owe student loans. So why are we saying we're gonna borrow today and hope tomorrow it'll be all right? We're living in a world where everything is changing. There are no rules that are gonna be the same by the time this 4 years is over. So I'm not really clear how we making these big decisions when we haven't figured out how to pay for or get the facilities from Fulton County we were supposed to get. But we're spending millions to keep those facilities up instead of getting those contracts sealed. But we want to build new buildings. I just don't understand that. Why can't we just make up our mind that we have several people running for office. I've never seen so many people want to run for office, but I don't see those people coming to the mic. If they want those seats, then they need to get up and say how they're going to represent the people that they want those seats.
I think we have one coming now, but before we hear from Mr. Johnson, City Manager Superden, would you mind coming up and just giving an update on the facilities that we have brought over from Fulton County? Because we actually have brought several facilities over that we are renovating as we speak. And we have some facilities that we have purchased in cash.
Sure. And when I gave my State of the City address, I also shared that we have brought over 193 acres from Fulton County. Many of the facilities that we are renovating, we have transitioned those facilities to the city. We have agreements with Fulton County on the others. And we are in the process of, getting those facilities acquired, in addition to facilities that we acquired on our own in order to have some assets in the city that we own. And so I took a couple of notes, but I don't think, and I believe this firmly, that we are just hoping for tomorrow. What I didn't share earlier is every year for the last 2 years, we have programmed money for debt service, almost like what you encourage your children to do when they're getting ready to buy a house. You tell them to start saving the money every month like they're going to pay a mortgage. We've been doing that. And we've demonstrated that year over year, we have not had to touch that money. We've been able to put that money aside for debt service. The city, while we are not perfect, there was only one perfect person that ever walked the earth. And so we have had some challenges. But in reality, when you look at the overall picture and the overall scope of a $265 million budget, and a growth in our fund balance to almost $100 million, we are managing your money, and we are managing it effectively. When I came on board, the council allowed me to diversify. We had all our money in one bank, and all we were doing is paying fees, not earning interest. When I came on board, I talked to Ed, I talked to the council, we diversified. We are now up to $16.3 million in interest that we've earned on your money in 2 years. It is true that we inherited a backlog of financial issues and reconciliations that haven't been done, but we have presented three audits to this council in 2 years. And another one will be upcoming. And we're caught up. We're doing the right things with the city's money to ensure that we will be in a position to be able to secure the future and pay our debt. This is not a hope for tomorrow. This is a plan.
Thank you. And Ms. Leverett, right on cue, here come the candidates. We have Mr. Mike Johnson, Mr. Mel Keaton, and Ms. Penny Webster Lewis. You will be our next 3 speakers.
So I guess my timing is perfect. As Ms. Leverett stated, they would like to see someone that's running for office come up here and speak, and I couldn't have better timing. I'm Mike Johnson. I'm a South Fulton resident. I raised my entire family here. I pay taxes. I own multiple properties here within the city. As Ms. Levitt stated, I'd like to get right into it. I'm in total agreement with Major Rogers and Fire Chief Jones. We need these facilities. The city of South Fulton cannot afford not to build these facilities. The city of South Fulton, we just need to find another way to do it without raising the cap. I hear you guys say you're not raising the millage rate today or tomorrow, but removing the millage rate cap next week on September the 9th opens us up, the citizens, to be taxed unlimited without us as citizens being allowed to vote on the amount at a later date, whether it's 2 years from now, 4 years from now. Even though Ed Wall stated that the council will have to have a couple of votes and go through some trouble and consult with us as residents to raise our taxes, you should have to do that. You should have to go through that trouble. It's our money. So I think you need to continue going through that trouble. Whether I'm sitting up there on that board with you guys or not, we should have to talk to these people every time we talked about raising that millage rate cap. I saw him show an example up here where the cities that didn't have an issue when they raised their millage rate cap. Well, for people who watching the news, I'm sure y'all saw what the city of Monroe, Georgia, Walton County went through about a week or so ago. Their millage rate were raised 19.5% in one city. Those people feel like they have been betrayed. We don't want to go through that. And lastly, to one of the council person just spoke, yeah, you got the right to do that. You got the right to do almost what you want to do, but you also got the right to speak to these citizens and to hold yourself accountable. And that's what we intend on happening. Thank you.
How you doing? My name is Mel Keaton. I'm in District 4. One of the things I want to talk about, and I really do think we do need a public safety facility, and I've been on the other side of the spectrum when waiting for a 911 call to dispatch and getting put on hold and at a very critical moment with accidents and people losing their life, actually. So we do need that. I am in agreement with that. What I do want to know is what sacrifices is the city council and elected officials going to make to ensure that we can get what we need to have, because it seems like we're the only people making sacrifices. I mean, we have a lot of parties every week, celebrations every week, 7 food giveaways, 7 book bag drives, 7 everything, and every week spending major overtime on all of this stuff. So, and then you didn't listen the first time we asked you about the trash tax. It ended up, you said everything was misinformation and we didn't know what we was talking about. We got silenced. Then we find out it's a trash tax, and people are getting their homes foreclosed about that trash tax, and they can get their homes foreclosed on that trash tax. So at what point do you listen? I mean, we're giving tax incentives to data centers. Why aren't we taxing them? We're not bringing in the commerce that we should, so we're trying to tax the residents. What we should be doing is bringing the commerce in and tax them, the businesses, not us. So. And again, I want to be direct on what I'm asking you. What sacrifices are our elected officials willing to make? And if you're not willing to make any sacrifices, why don't you move out the seat and get away and let somebody else get the job?
Thank you, sir. Ms. Webster Lewis.
As has been stated, we have been making sacrifices. None of this has been on the fly. All those plans in the city, whether we talked about our economic strategic plan for the city, the transportation, it's all been planned out. I'm going to encourage residents, and have said it many times, we have comprehensive plan updates. People don't show up for those. I'm going to be honest. I think I had a grand total of about 6 people call me about the millage rate cap, and I'm speaking for residents from District 1 who called me, and I walked them through this very conversation. After I explained it, I didn't get a lot of questions. And so while some people have indicated that maybe it's hostile, I haven't had that from residents. They wanted to understand what was going on in the rationale. I wish more people would have been able to attend. the tour to see the facilities. We've been dealing with them for the last 8 years, trying to improve the work conditions for our residents and for our employees. So this is not fly by night. All the land we've acquired across this city, I think we're over 600 acres now. That's for long-term planning, not just for public safety, it's for green space, it's future fire stations as our city grow. We've been thoughtful about that. And I will say this about our meetings. You cannot just tune in at one meeting and understand what's going on in the city. It's a continuous process. This evening before I came here, I was at a HOA meeting. Residents asking the same questions. I walked them through those questions. We all have town hall meetings where we're sharing information. I'm gonna encourage you to participate and come in person, not just remotely, because there is the opportunity to ask this question. And it's not just at the council meetings. We're there and available to answer your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Webster Lewis, go ahead.
Thank you. And like others, and as a former military police officer, I know the importance of adequate facilities for our public service personnel. None of us, I don't think any of the residents want them to work in dilapidated, overcrowded, unsafe conditions. That's number one. However, the cap is a protection for all of us, including the members of council who also reside in the city of South Fulton. What assurances, what is going to protect all of us? Because you won't be in your positions forever. And without a cap of any sort, someone coming behind you could put us in a position where seniors and moderately income families would lose their homes. That's a real fear. So we need to hear from our elected leaders what's going to be in place to protect all of us. And that's what I have to say on the matter.
Thank you. I do want to offer one quick answer about one of the things that is in place. So on September 9th, we're going to have this vote, and at the same time that we have this vote on what we're going to do with the cap, the very next vote will be the millage rate. So the first time that we have the opportunity to raise the millage rate will be 5 minutes after the cap. Please come September 9th. All of those votes are going to happen at 7 p.m. So you just have to come one time. You don't have to, be trying to come all day. The next thing that I want to say is you've heard some of the protections that we've made. We have more exemptions for homeowners in the city of South Fulton than any other city in Fulton County. And at the state level, the state, they passed this constitutional amendment where no one can raise your property taxes more than 3% of the previous year, right? I'm probably not saying that right. We're going to have a financial expert come up and, you're right, no one can do it more than 3% of the previous year. The city of South Fulton had passed that 2 years ago. So before it had come to the state legislature, we're already doing that. So I want you to know that some of those protections are there. We are listening. We are here. I'm going to hand it over to Councilwoman Willis.
So I want to clear something up. Not one time did I say we had a right to do anything. What I did say is that we're not in conflict with the charter. What someone put out was that we are doing something wrong or we're doing something illegal by raising the millage rate cap or removing the millage rate cap. What I did say is that we're not doing anything illegal. And what I also said, I was going to put the specific codes to confirm that in my next newsletter. The other thing I want to say is we did transition all of our public safety facilities from the county during the 2-year period that we were required to do so. We had 2 years to transition from the county, and we transitioned earlier than 2 years. Most of the facilities that we transitioned from the county were in disrepair. When I got elected 8 years ago, the fire station in my district, District 1, had to be closed. Fire Station 3 had to be closed. We number our fire stations. On Welcome Mall Road, that's Fire Station 3, the oldest fire station in the city. It was not even in operation. We have totally renovated that fire station. We created a URA, an Urban Redevelopment Authority, and we borrowed $17 million to repair the buildings, to get mold out of some of our buildings, but we still do not have adequate facilities for our public safety personnel. Now, I want to apologize to our public safety personnel because these are the ones who put our lives on the line, and they hear all of this rhetoric. And if we're going to retain our officers, if we're going to retain our fire personnel, if we're going to want people to come and work for South Fulton, then we are going to have to make sure they have adequate facilities. We're going to have to make sure they have adequate equipment, and right now we do not. When we have emergency situations in the city of South Fulton, our public safety personnel should not be sleeping on the floor or in carts, because that's what's happening now. Our public safety personnel should not have to drive 25 minutes outside of our city limits to a police headquarters, which is located in the city of Atlanta. By the way, we're paying $300,000 annually to rent that space. We are not raising taxes. We have said that over and over again. I understand there's a lot of distrust. But to say that we're not on sound financial ground is not true. We have over $100 million surplus. We went from a $30 million deficit due to the timing of money when we started 8 years ago to now a $400 million budget. I want to thank Mr. Ed Wall, because there was rhetoric put out about him that was not true. Thanks to his sound advice, we are now in the position to do debt financing to give our officers, our public safety personnel, the facilities that they need to do their jobs. I'm going to yield, but the persons that I hurt for the most, that are performing for us daily, that we have crime decreasing every year. We have officers, we had 2 officers to get shot. One is no longer with one. We had 2 officers to get shot. We had 1 to get killed due to a car fatality. A car accident that's no longer with us. We had a fire personnel to lose their life. And when I say officer to get shot, I mean we had a K-9 officer to lose their life. Let's not forget about our K-9 officers. And no one wants to live in a city where they're not safe, and no one wants to live in a city where we don't have good schools. Those are the 2 things that impact our economic viability. And so to sit here and say that we should wait to give our officers, our public safety personnel, the conditions they need to do their jobs is really a slap in their face. And again, I understand the distrust. I'm not saying that we have not made any missteps, but you just heard our financial advisor tell you that we're on we have sound finances. We're in a position to do this debt financing. You just heard from our city manager. How can we assure you? That's up to you. We have an election. This is not about an election. We didn't invite candidates to come up here and talk because this is not about an election. This is about doing what we need to do to provide adequate facilities for our public safety personnel. We have forums to hear from candidates.
All right, I'm going to come to this side to hear from Councilman Pritchett, if you'll just grab that mic and turn it to the right. I do want to say we are going to take care of our public safety personnel. This isn't a choice between raising or eliminating the cap and not taking care of our personnel. If you saw my State of the City address, you know we're up to nearly 800 employees now. People want to see more police in their neighborhood. We're hiring more police. We're doing these beat studies so that we can put more folks on the street. Dr. Alexander is here. He's working on getting more cops on the street. They will have some place to sit. If we don't build these buildings, we'll just keep renting. And you should know that we are spending about $1.5 million a year on rental facilities that we don't own. Councilwoman Pritchett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, good evening. I'm Mayor Pro Tem Linda Pritchett. I represent District 7. And in a previous meeting that we had, a hearing just last week, one of the residents, a senior, she felt that the residents are paying the majority of the taxes in the city, and you know that she was concerned that we're hurting residents by some of the things that we're proposing. And the budget was just shown at that hearing. And so I want to point this out to you all because I think that when we really have the wrong information or don't put things in the proper context, that we come to the wrong conclusions, and then we start speculating and pointing fingers and really feeling bad about what's happening. So when it comes to property taxes that residents pay, 15.22% of the taxes that are paid in this city, revenue into the city from homeowners, it's 15.22%. And then there's another 0.82% that comes from ad valorem. You know, the ad valorem that we pay for our cars and stuff like that. And as it has been mentioned earlier, that we have homestead exemptions, we have senior exemptions, we have lots of exemptions. The point that I'm trying to really get at is that the citizens do not take the majority of the load of the tax burden in this city. And that is a good thing. You're paying less, the residents pay less than 25% of the city's entire revenue, tax revenue burden. It actually is 16.04. So I'm just appealing to you so that you understand that we're here because we really do care what you think, what you feel, what your concerns on, and for that reason, we are discussing it, we're bringing you the information. But I think that all this really boils down to is we're a young city that is growing. And we're at a crossroads where we have to decide, are we going to keep growing, or we're just going to start getting scared, hesitant, speculative, and then just wind up in a state of just inertia where we don't go anywhere. So I just recently visited a city, an infrastructure conference, actually in Puerto Rico. And Puerto Rico had been hit for many years with hurricane storms and all kind of stuff. I was there last year, and this year, what I saw in their convention center is buildings like tore up, like stuff got pulled off the frames. And people say, oh, you know, Puerto Rico's so nice. Puerto Rico is like tore up and run down, like seriously. You know, and those people, their infrastructure for their power grids, they're not getting this money from the federal government because they don't want to see them succeed and do well. But I'll tell you what I did learn on this trip. They did a presentation where they talked about they spent $742 million on 300 separate projects. 300. 68 of those projects were completed. And these projects included parks, plazas, schools, hospital facilities, housing for the homeless, paving their roads, all that kind of stuff. So the bottom line, what I want y'all to think about is, when you visit Puerto Rico and you see the condition that it's in right now, you wouldn't really believe that $742 million is about to be spent to restore that island, to make sure that they have power, to make sure that their roads are paved, to make sure that their businesses have the opportunity to continue with tourism. While I was there, the power went out. I was there actually in the middle of a hurricane, and things went flying, and it was crazy, and some of the events got postponed for 2 days. But the point I'm really making again is, it comes a point where we have to decide, are we really gonna grow? Are we gonna be a hand-me-down city that has facilities that we keep patching up? You know, I've seen other cities and other counties having to continue to pour hundreds of millions of dollars into facilities, and they have nothing to show for it. What I can tell you, in this 3rd year that I've been serving in this city, that is already 8 years old, I really want to tell you we have made some significant progress. We have things that we never had before when we were Fulton County. Many of you in this audience fought for cityhood because we were not getting potholes filled. We were not getting the roads paved. We did not have no roundabouts. We were not getting lights in certain areas. We were not having officers responding. You know, we did not have a lot of stuff, and we have made so much progress. So, you know, I care about all your concerns, but when we, as elected officials, go to conferences, we have so much stuff that they don't have, because the original council was forward-thinking as to the facilities and the resources that we would have to be able to function. A lot of these cities around the state of Georgia are jealous of all the stuff we have. We have a lot of stuff, and we have good stuff. They talked about our administration building. That's something that was purchased, we purchased it because it was a good idea, and when we were in a crucial moment where we had to evacuate our city hall, the staff had somewhere to go to. Those are the kind of things that I hope you give us a chance and really understand that we're working really hard, and we are sacrificing. We're sacrificing so much of our time to try to educate you, to try to provide you this information. I ask you to be more open-minded about the financial aspect of this, the practical aspect of this. And I'm gonna say the last thing, and then I'll yield. When I was a teenager, when I graduated high school, my family said, if you graduate with 90 and above, we'll buy you a new car. I graduated with 90 and above, I got a new car. Ever since then, I had a new car. Then when I got a little older, my brother-in-law was like, why are you buying a new car? Because they depreciate so quick. You can get a used car for a fraction of the cost, and it'll look nice, this and that. So I bought used cars from then on. But you know the thing with used cars, they break down. I had 3 cars at the same time, and I went from one to the other, and my friends are like, this is ridiculous. You have to buy a reliable vehicle. So I had to. So what I'm saying is this. We have to get to the point where we have to buy new facilities. We have to get to the point that we have to act like the grown city that we are. And I hope that you would understand the decisions that we try to make. Thank you for your attention.
All right, time is late. I'm going to get to a couple more of these questions before we hear from the rest of our council. I'm going to ask DeJanice Glasgow to come up. And while they're coming, Mr. Wall, if you'll come back up, these are some financial questions. These are questions that people have. A concerned homeowner, I don't know if you want to come forward. I'm going to start reading your card because you didn't put your name on it. When shopping for a bank, I guess for these bonds, what millage rate was provided to them is the question. So this is a question about the process and how we got to shopping for these millage rate, for these bonds.
Thank you, Mayor. So I did a term sheet. It was about 8 pages long with all the particulars about South Fulton and these particular bonds. I attached to it 5 years worth of audit reports, the 5 years of the tax digest, and in that term sheet, I write in there that the city of South Fulton has a millage rate cap of 13.469 mils. I write in there that we currently levy 12.399 mils. The difference in that times the tax digest was $5 million. I says the city of South Fulton Mayor and Council will consider raising the millage rate cap or eliminating it if you think it is necessary. Everybody thought it was necessary. There was no way that you can borrow this money. Ma'am? Yeah, I did, if you think it's necessary.
We have a follow-up question from Ms. Glasgow. Go ahead, Ms. Glasgow. This is a related question.
So one of my primary questions, and before I start to my question, is really getting an understanding that I have with South Fulton finances. So we are heavily reliant already on property taxes, and we're already in a space of distrust. So to state that this council will not remove and raise it, that may very well be true. However, they don't have unlimited terms. So there's a primary concern that the next person, as they stated before, can remove it. The second priority I want to talk about is Sandy Springs has been brought up a gazillion times in comparison, in a good way, in comparison of disadvantages and advantages. But one thing I didn't hear come up in these facts was, one, they had a bond rating before they got their bond. That's the first thing. The other thing I haven't heard when we were talking about the facts and it compares to South Fulton is, it's been said many times, including by our CFO, the necessity to increase our revenue as a city. So my question is, why is right now, knowing what I know about HR, buildings do not retain employees? Buildings do not attract employees. What retains and attracts employees is environments, cultures, and spaces. And something that has demonstrated the consistent financial responsibility. And they said that council has agreed that that is where we are, right? But my question is, why is the priority not for us to get a bond rating as a city prior to making this type of vast move? And secondly, as they have already stated, general law allows them to do certain provisions to the charter. But has the city considered the legal ramifications that will come behind? Because all of these residents, or not all, some of these residents, they will challenge this change. And looking at the cost of a 2-year growth and then a 2-year litigation, we're still going to be up against inflation, against your true social tweets that you mentioned.
Thank you, ma'am. So the city of South Fulton, if it had a credit rating, you know, we all have credit ratings, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. Governments get credit ratings from 3 rating agencies, Moody's, Fitch, and Standard & Poor's. And so if the city of South Fulton had a credit rating, I think it'd be in the AA category. Sandy Springs is AAA. In order to get a AAA, you got to have an audit report no greater than 6 months old. You go to New York and visit with them, or they come down here and visit with you. In 2019, when the city did the $17 million that Councilwoman Willis was talking about, it was a brand new city. We had a deficit financing. We did a private placement where we took bids from banks. So when this project came up, we didn't have the 23 audit. We don't have the 24 audit. When you get a credit rating, if any of y'all got one, once you get the credit rating, it can take years to get it improved. It's slow as Christmas. City manager wants y'all to be rated AAA from the get-go. And so it was my advice to her that if you want to be perfect AAA credit rating, you got to have all your ducks in a row. So you got to have the 23 and 24 audit. And so we decided to try a private placement by bidding it to banks. And then I compared that, what if we had a AA credit rating? What would the interest rate be? And it turned out the interest rate on this bond issue, if we had a AA credit rating and we sold it in $5,000 denominations to the public, the rate would have been 4.92%. We got 4.3. Why is that? I believe that banks think that rates are going to come down. And so banks got aggressive and they bid for 4.3, hoping they could hold it. And we wouldn't refinance it for some period of time. Some of the bids I got back, they wanted us not to be able to repay it for 10 years or 12 years. Some put prepayment penalties in there. And I insisted that I wanted a 5-year window where after 5 years you could prepay it with no penalty. And Regions Bank was the best bid. So I hope I've answered your question about the credit rating and why we don't have one now, because we need the current audit report, why we didn't go get it, because Ms. Subadan doesn't want a AA, she wants a AAA. Is that fair?
Go ahead and stay up there. Condra McGee, if you would come down, and Delia Thomas. I think I have that right. And while they're coming, Ms. Subadan, could you we've heard a lot about, there's a lot of debate about how much of our city's revenue is coming from residential homeowner property taxes. Could you just give us some clarity about that?
Yes, you are correct. The Mayor Pro Tem just said that. That's the composition of our current year budget. And I looked up a quick statistic. We have 43,346 homes in the city of South Fulton that get $2.38 billion in exemptions. 43,000 homes get $2.8 billion in exemptions. The other thing that was sort of talked about really quickly is the city is limited in how much, by our own standards and by state standards, in how much the millage can be increased in any single year. And we've opted in for a more stringent rate, max on a year of 3%, where the state, under House Bill 581, allows us to do the CPI. We took a more stringent approach, more fiscally responsible approach for you to ensure that in no given year, what happened in whatever city somebody said where they raised it by, we're not able to do that.
Thank you. Ms. Condra, I'm sorry if I'm not butchering your name. Go ahead.
Good evening. I also want to first start off by saying that I am in support of building the 2 new facilities and supporting our public safety teams. I've had that experience of calling 911 and being placed on hold as well, so I understand the need, and I thank you guys for your service. I think one of my questions was just answered, and that was, what was the basis point difference between removing the cap or keeping it as is, and that's the 4.9? Is that right? What's the difference? I'm sorry. And I can continue with the rest, or we can let him interject here. Okay.
Well, he'll answer. So I don't know how many the basis points difference would be. It could be as much as 25 basis points. The 4.92 was if we had a AA credit rating and we sold the bonds to the public. And that's my report card. I measure the bids that I get in from banks. What would be the interest rate if I sold bonds to the public with a AA credit rating? That's the best, lowest interest rate I'd get. That was a 4.92 versus the 4.30. The raising the millage rate cap, it has to do with the fact that I couldn't borrow $96 million if I didn't raise the millage rate cap. And so under that, I was somewhere around $60 million, and the interest rate would be higher, but I don't know by how much.
Okay, and that's what I was trying to understand, because that is what we've been told. It was to get the cheaper interest rates, and I just needed to know if that was actually material for everything that we're actually going through right now, right? Additionally, the city manager passionately expressed what we've been hearing a bit, that the city has no interest and no need to increase the millage rate. And as some of my fellow citizens have talked about, I think even if one isn't cynical about the integrity of the current administration, and even if you all don't project the need in the foreseeable future to have an increase, unless I'm missing something, it really does seem like it would be civically and fiscally irresponsible and naive to ignore the risk associated with the changing of the guards, because we are in an election year. You know, you guys can't account for what the new administration will do in the future. During the presentation earlier, the advisor outlined option A and option B, and someone behind me said, what about option C? And I think that she's right. You know, an option that includes some additional guardrails. Thank you, Mayor, for talking about some of that, and thank you, sir, for what, or ma'am, I'm sorry, the city manager for the 3%. I wasn't aware of that, the limitation. But what else, what other guardrails can we do to hold the city at its word? For example, if we increase the millage rate cap and simultaneously make a motion and a vote to place a moratorium on the increase of the millage rate for a certain amount of time, right? Once we've actually gotten our bond. Is it a possibility for us to look into something like that? And is any council member so confident that there won't be a need for an increase that you will make a motion for that moratorium on increases to follow suit on September 9th as well? And then also just to the council, you know, in my line of work, I deal with clients who sometimes come to me asking for something different than what I submitted, right? And that can be a bit frustrating because I feel like what I've given them, I've already done my due diligence and it's perfect. But I can say that time and time again, when they've pushed me, it's actually resulted in a better outcome. And so I hope that you guys are embracing the feedback that you're getting tonight to be able to get to a better outcome. And that's all that we're collectively trying to do. Thank you.
Ms. McGee, thank you for that and for that possible solution. I think that that's using the collective genius of our people, we can come up with new things. But I do want to ask Mr. Wall and Mr. Selby, who is our bond attorney, about the possibility of doing that sort of moratorium.
So there are 537 cities, y'all heard me say that. About 527 don't have a millage rate cap. That's 98%. And so you all, and we all live in a representative democracy. You all elect these folks sitting up on this stage to make decisions for you. Anything they decide tonight, anything you put on them in the legislature, if you want to get the legislature to put a law, the Georgia Constitution by home rule amendment allows this body or any new body that gets elected to change their city charter to fit what they want. And so your recourse is to throw them out when the vote comes up if they do something you don't like. But there's nothing that you can put on them because of home rule amendment that they or some future body can't change. And the last thing I'll say is
Yeah, he said a lot of words. I just want to make sure that you heard that answer. We can do the moratorium, but then a new council could come in and undo the moratorium.
I appreciate you interpreting for me, boss. And wasn't there something else you asked me? Was there something else I had? It was on. We're good?
All right.
Thank you,
So there is a, we've heard option A, B, C. There is an option D. I'm just being transparent. And this, I don't know if we could be more transparent than we've been through this process. The option D is to not do it or to wait. And Ms. Thomas, you have a question about that.
So, hi, my question is mostly about the economic impact on people and the city of building these two facilities. The current budget for the facility is like half of the city budget, is that correct? Or the loan that you guys are asking for?
No, our current budget is $260 million. Each facility is about $55 million.
So together they're 116-ish?
About 106. And I do think it's important to say that we do have, at least for the next 30 days, a guaranteed not to exceed amount. Anybody that's ever worked with a contractor, have they come in and they told you one price and then halfway through the project it ended up being something else? We do have a guarantee that these two projects together will not cost over $113 million.
Okay, and then with that, how are you guys planning to pay the incomes for the people related to these facilities, not just law enforcement and the firefighters, but the 911 operators that you'll have to hire to cover the need that we have, janitorial staff, you know, things like that? Is that budgeted into a cost already, or is that something that's going to have to come on top of what's already possibly going to be paid for?
Two questions. One is about the operational costs associated with the personnel of the building. I'm going to have our city manager answer that. And then right after that, you really asked a great question about what is the possible economic benefit. I'm going to ask our fire chief to come up. He's been talking about ISO ratings and response times, and we're going to talk about what a 911 center could mean for that. And there's also some economic benefit of having our own 911 center that I'll have our city manager talk about the numbers.
All right, let me start with the 911. So currently we pay $2 million to Fulton County. And if any of you have ever looked at your phone bill, there's a 911 fee. Everybody pays it. Fulton County collects all of our 911 fee. We estimate it's probably about $3.5 to $4 million. So for 911 right now, we're paying close to $6 million.
Per year?
Per year. I ran a 911 center, 3 different places, and it didn't cost me $6 million. So we already have anticipated that we will have ongoing carrying costs. We're also paying a lot of money in rent and utilities for all these buildings that we're leasing. We've already identified that we could repurpose that funding into our ongoing janitorial, utility, maintenance, all the regular costs. In terms of the amount of the loan versus the amount of the budget, I would challenge you to think about this in your own spaces. When you buy a house, first of all, only the very rich are able to go out and buy a house cash, or mostly cash. I don't know about the rest of you, but for the last 40 years, I've had a mortgage somewhere. And it is always multiple times, the total cost of the building is always multiple times what I make. Because what they're looking for is, can you pay the mortgage? And our income has been able to pay the mortgage. And it's the same for us. Even though the amount is large, the $6.5 to $7 million worth of annual payments is what we anticipate and what we have programmed as being what we're able to pay. So hopefully that answers the questions.
Have Chief Jones just come and talk about some of the benefits of the response time and the ISO ratings.
Yes. So one of the things I've heard tonight is about bringing businesses here, about growing the city. One of the things they look at is they look at other cities. Our ISO rating, which is your insurance rating right now, is a 1 out of 10. We're a 3. Part of that is on a scale. One of the things that they look at is they come in and say, do you have 3 acres in a training facility? We don't. So we don't get points. So again, the higher we can go, obviously our goal is to be a 1. But when they're looking at taxes, insurance ratings, things like that to bring in an Amazon warehouse, say maybe 1 million square foot, they're going to get an insurance cost. They're going to look at City of Atlanta. They're going to look at other places. Can I bring it cheaper? Because they're about profits. So again, the better ISO we can have, the better. It doesn't always relate to residents, but we've had residents that have come up to us and said, well, we've called certain insurance companies. They won't insure us because of our ISO rating. So again, you don't have as many options because of the ISO rating. So we're working diligently to move us to a 2 and hopefully to a 1. Response times, several people have said that. We have 9 stations that cover over 100 square miles. Typically, you want a fire station every 5 miles. Ours is about 9 to 10 miles. So again, extended response times. Insurance looks at that. How long is it going to take a fire truck to get to this resident to put the fire out? They're looking at 5 minutes. Our average is about 10. And until we can build facilities and we grow, the number one thing we have to have is training. I have to be able to train the new recruits to a standard to put them in the stations. So again, we have done it in phases. We're looking at what will benefit the city and how we can move forward, and hopefully that answered the question.
Can you talk a little bit about the routing of the calls through Fulton County 911 versus routing through ours?
Okay, again, a 911. So several of y'all have come up and even mentioned you call 911, you get put on hold. So again, what we're looking at is building our own facility. The city manager has already spoke about the cost that we pay Fulton County. But as of right now, when you call 911, it goes to Fulton County. We do not, under state law, we do not provide the emergency medical services, EMS. That is through Department of Public Health. The zone is actually given to Fulton County. Fulton County has been given it to Grady EMS. We do not get to choose that. We just get to work with them. We have no control over them. We do not have a contract. We get what we get. So again, under the city manager, this mayor and council, we've been able to put up 3 transport-ready units to help do that. But when a call comes in and you need an ambulance, it goes to Fulton County. Fulton County then transfers the call to Grady over on Moreland Avenue. Then Grady dispatches the ambulance. We don't have communication. So again, if we controlled the 911, we can control that and either force Grady in or dispatch the ambulances ourselves to save those seconds and minutes to get to y'all quicker. So everything is about our response time, getting to y'all quicker, and what we can do.
Thank you. All right, it's 8 o'clock. We didn't get to all the cards. I'm going to go to 2 more cards. I am willing to stay. I don't know where Dr. Pollard is. I'm willing to stay in the building or in the parking lot if you got to put us out, you know, and get all these questions answered. But I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. So our last 2 speakers tonight, before I turn it back over to council for closing comments, will be Ms. Wanda Mosley and Norman Martin.
Uh-oh, there it is. Good evening, my name is Wanda Mosley. I'm a resident, proud resident of the city of South Fulton. Spent some time when we were working to become a city, knocking on doors, making phone calls, and I'm very proud to tell people that I live in the city of South Fulton. I'm an advocate, I'm an activist, and I'm a community organizer. Most of my work happens in a city next door that I will not name. But never, ever did I think that I would have to come back home to address the issue of silencing Black voters. So I'm gonna say, yes, I was one of those people that went on the tour, and those facilities are horrendous. I wanna thank our servicemen and women for what you do, and you do deserve better facilities. But what I'm concerned about today is the process by which we are doing this. The sister over there, she must have been looking over my shoulder when she said Plan C, because there has to be another way. We can't just sit here and present this, and that's what we're gonna do. There's a lot of brain power, as you mentioned, Mayor, up on the stage and in this room, and in the 800 or so employees within our city. So I challenge you to do better. And in the process, before you get to that, I want to also remind you that each of you took an oath to uphold and preserve the charter that guides and runs this city. Now, I haven't studied home rule, but I hope that home rule doesn't give you permission to take a lighter to said charter. And so I'm gonna read this part of the charter. For all years, the millage rate imposed for ad valorem taxes on real property for operating budget purposes shall not exceed 13.469 mills unless a higher limit is recommended by resolution of the City Council and approved by a majority of the qualified voters of the city. I'm a qualified voter of the city. This room is full of other qualified voters in our city, and we want to be able to be heard. We understand all this fancy PowerPoints and all this other stuff you put up there. That's real cute. But at the end of the day, I feel like my voice is being silenced. It says in this charter, it even has the verbiage of what you're going to put on the chart, or excuse me, what you're going to put on the ballot. You ain't even got to think about it. We don't even have to hire somebody who can come out and make a whole lot of money to write it in for us. It says it right here. And so that's what I'm asking for, our ability to vote. Why are we rushing to do this? Probably because even though we're 8 years, I have respect for our elected officials. I myself will never be one, God willing, because it's a thankless job. But in a lot of ways, as a city of 8 years, I would hope that we already had some facilities up to par that our police and fire could be using right now. Because $300,000 a year, it don't take but what, 3 years or so to get to $1 million. We couldn't build something for them for $1 million. That was the ding, that was my bell. But again, we need a plan C. There is another option. We don't have to rush to this. Don't tell me about tariffs and all that other stuff. I don't want to hear it. Do not touch the charter. Do not put fire to the charter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Mosley, thanks. I can't touch that at all. I do want to say, however, that I'm not from South Fulton. I've only been in South Fulton for about, 13, 14 years, right? And I love it. Of course, I find that even my mortgage is okay, but I just find that the homes are just built so poorly. And the maintenance on them is extraordinary. And then all that means is I can't buy my wife a Cadillac this year because I got to put a new roof on the house or fix the deck. But it's not me, it's the whole neighborhood. And so, coming to this area, I'm a little bit appalled at the craftsmanship and the quality. That's what I see with the builders down here. It's not the people, but the builders that build our homes. I wasn't coming tonight, but Miss Regina and her husband, they kind of dragged me along. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to come. I wasn't even planning on it. Not because I didn't want to be here, I just had other things going on, but I canceled my plans, right? When I looked at the officers that stood up, when I first came in here, I want to say I'm appreciative of them, and I'm appreciative of what the fire department has done. Because I've made calls to 911, and I've never ever had to wait for them to answer, but I've always had to wait for the fire department or the police department to show up. It took a long time. I had a neighbor died, and it took us almost 8 hours just to be able to get into the house to see if she was in there, if she was assaulted or something. They finally came, but it took almost 8 hours for us to just get somebody to come and break in the house, and they said, well, we can't, we got to get permission. And so you had to find a relative of the person who was in the house, who lived in a whole nother city, to come just to give permission to break the door down or go through the garage. And when we finally got in the house, of course, it was so terrible because she was dead in the house. And it was so horrible, we couldn't even get to see her, and we were close friends, couldn't even get to see her. And I know it's because of the fact that they had to rely on people coming in as far as the policemen and the fire department from a whole nother city. And it took a whole lot of time, a whole lot of wasted time. So I appreciate these guys and those guys and what we're trying to do, because I want, my children, my grandchildren to grow up here. I like my neighborhood. I live in the same neighborhood with Mel. I love my neighborhood. But I would like to see I know we're going to do it. I just want to express my appreciation that we're going down the path, but we got a whole lot of other things that's involved as well. But I'm hoping that we can get a better response from these facilities. When I saw them talking about, wow, one bathroom for the policemen and the other folks to go in there, that was abhorrent. It's just terrible thinking about it. So we can do better in so many ways, and I'm still hopeful for South Fulton County. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. We're going to go to council comments. I'm going to go in reverse order now, starting with Councilwoman, or Mayor Pro Tem Pritchett.
Well,
I don't have much more to say than I've said already before. I really appreciate everyone that's come out here tonight. You could have been somewhere else, but you came here because this is important. So I thank you for being here this evening. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And the only thing that I have to say is that I did not come to say anything. I came to listen. And the good Lord gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth so that you can listen twice as much as you talk. So thank you to all of the residents who came. Thank you to all of the residents who had comments, whether we were able to get to them all or not. I know that there are those who want to criticize me because I don't say much, but I don't say much for a reason. Because I have 2 ears and I have 1 mouth, and I don't like to run my mouth. I like to listen with my ears and make sure that I know and I understand what is happening before I open my mouth to say anything. One thing that I would ask, because we have a lot of comment cards here, are there any residents of District 6 in the building? If you are, could you please stand up? Thank you. I believe at least 2 of you have my phone number and I talk to regularly. Sir, if we could please have a word in the lobby. I want to make sure that you know how to get in touch with me so that we can continue the conversation after this forum. But again, thank you to all of you for coming out and for participating. And please do know that I am listening rather than talking.
Again, thank you everybody for coming out tonight. I think my colleague has said a lot. We have received a lot of information, and as always with District 5 residents or any residents in the city who have already contacted me, who have already asked the proper questions or necessary questions, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for those who have made comments. We listen. I got a tablet, a notebook right here, taking everyone's information, because my job as an elected official is to listen and take action and impact. And so by listening to your voices, taking the notes down so I know exactly what your thoughts are, then we can now come together and discuss a option C or option D. So I do thank you for standing up and everyone who gave their input, because there's been numerous of questions that I've spoken with the city manager about as it relates to this, because I'm known as El Cheapo, so if it was up to me, we would get buy one, get one free. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So again, thank you all for coming out, voicing your concerns, and giving us an opportunity to hear you and then take action. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Sebastian.
Thank you for finally recognizing me, Mr. Mayor. I've been trying to speak for the last hour, but that's okay. You know, I see several folks here in the audience that I work with to create this wonderful city of ours. And I've oftentimes said that fire and police were at the top of the list. I myself have been a victim of crime before the city was formed, and we called the police. Back then, no one ever came. But let me just tell you all a story. I got a call from several residents one day, and they were really, really upset. There was a single car accident. There was a woman trapped and injured in a car, and residents were trying to help her. This happened about a mile from one of our stations. The person died on the scene. And of course, being upset, when I got the call, I went to staff and said, what happened here? What happened? The problem was the calls were going into Fulton County and they were not coming out. It takes 2 things, to make the call and to dispatch the call. If it was any one of our residents who was trapped in that car and wanting the system to work as efficiently as it can be, is there any amount of money that we would not pay to keep our loved ones alive? For me, the check could not be big enough. So, because we fought to create this city, I am disposed, because I was one of those who stood in forums like this years ago and tell people why it was necessary to do this. Myself, Harold Reed, I see Rodney Little's over there, and Aaron Johnson was here before. We were on what is called the Speakers Bureau. So, and Joel Johnson. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. And thank you, Ms. Mosley, as well, for knocking on the doors, and maybe others. But the issue was, we knew we had a problem with fire and police. And by the way, this issue of wanting to build a city and have this motto, a city on the rise, which I love, by the way, because we are on the rise. By the way, the 2024 media estimates, population estimate for the city of South Fulton is 112,000, and for Sandy Springs, it is 108,000. So we are larger geographically and in population and growing. And so when we think about doing public safety and attracting businesses and headquarters and all that stuff here, they're going to look at what our philosophy and what we're doing around public safety. Who wants to bring their kids here to a city that is going to feel unsafe? Which, by the way, the city of South Fulton is one of the safest cities around here, period. Go online and look at our crime statistics. They are all there for you to see. But I do understand the concerns. And by the way, I've had conversations with 3 residents in District 3. That's all I've had. And lots of residents have not only my city number and email, they have my personal cell phone numbers. So again, I understand the trepidation. I get it. We are taxpayers too. But I also think if we're going to truly be a first-class, best-in-class city, as we talked about during the movement to create the city of South Fulton, we have to start to take some additional bold steps. To me, it is a little bit disappointing that some of the narrative that went out before now, that some of those folks did not even know we had an administrative building that we bought and rehab where most of our staff is. We just rehabbed our city hall. So even the discussion about building a city hall first before we build these facilities, right? To me, we are comfortable right now relatively at City Hall and at the admin building, but our police officers, as some of you saw on our fire, the deplorable conditions in which they have to sacrifice and operate to protect us. So again, I implore you, I love the brain power of the public. I talk to residents several hours per week, so they know how to reach me in District 4 and across the city. But we are going to explore all the options. But you citizens are the ones that have to hold us accountable at the ballot box. Because as somebody said, we could put something in place, another council come, they could reverse it. Does that mean we're not going to act at all, like Mayor Pro Tem Pritchard said? So I hope that this forum tonight have provided at least some additional information as we look to chart our way forward. Because we must continue to build this great city of ours. You know, a council member in Sandy Springs told me at a recent training I was at, man, we're looking at everything you guys are doing in South Fulton. And I was like, what? Sandy Springs looking at us? Of course they're looking at us. Because regardless of some of the other things that have happened around, you know what we've done? We have made great strides in the last 8 years for a city so young. And we will continue to do that, and we'll continue to push this forward. And I'll say this last thing. Staff know that by nature, I am anti-tax. I'm just am. Because I always feel that we explore all options of getting money, even outside help, federal grants, whatever, to help us do some of the things that we need to do around here. And so that's why in 2023, I had pushed for us to lower this millage rate, because we made a promise to citizens when we were forming the city, we will not overtax you. And we have not done so. We have lowered the rate and we have kept it constant. And we hope that as we build this city and build out our business base, we can afford to lower the millage rate because we would have other sources of income as we move forward. Because Sandy Springs, as the mayor said, they have very expensive properties, they have a big business base, so they can afford to have a millage rate for under 5%. And on top of that, their homes are so much more expensive just because it's on the other side of town. So I'm just asking you all to continue to work with us. We're not evil people. We're not ones to get up and to be vilified every day and every day on Nextdoor and stuff. We're human beings. We're citizens. We have families that deal with all of this, right? But you know what? We, as a family, knew it was a sacrifice for at least me to serve on council. And I've proudly done so, and I'll continue to do so as long as people of the city want me to be. All right, so thank you all.
How many people got the text message and the robocall and the emails? Can you raise your hand? Well, that was paid for out of my budget because I wanted you here. I wanted you here. I wanted to hear from you. We heard you when you said that you all wanted to hear, you wanted to have input, you all wanted to hear from us. I'm not going to ask the residents of District 3 to stand up because I see you. You know me and I know you. We're one city. When you all call 911 for help, our officers are not assigned to districts. They're assigned to the city. We were accused of that this process of removing the millage rate cap, we were accused that if we raised the millage rate cap, we were doing something illegal. Our job's to provide you the facts. It's our job to listen how you feel about it as well. We were accused of not being good stewards of your tax dollars. I will be honest to say we have had some missteps, but you have heard from our city manager and you've heard from our financial advisor advise you that we have over $100 million surplus and we have a proposed $400 million budget, and we are on sound financial good standing, and we are caught up on our audits. We were accused of wanting to build these facilities because we wanted vanity projects in the city. So Councilmember Gums and I arranged for residents to take a tour of our public safety facilities, fire, and police. We are asked, can we find facilities until we can get these facilities built? We can't be any more transparent. We have in transition all of our facilities from the county. We have renovated what we could renovate. We are leasing $1.2 million in facilities, but our public safety officers are still sleeping on the floor when we have emergency management situations. We're still paying over $300,000 in an annual lease for our police headquarters. And so we're making decisions that we feel like are fiscally sound in the long run. We have got to this process started in 2022, and this is not a knee-jerk reaction. Lastly, I will say, some have asked to be able to have the opportunity to vote. So if we were to put this on the ballot for you all to vote, that cannot happen until 2026. It is too late for us, by law, to put anything on the ballot for you all to vote on in 2025. So that means residents will not be able to vote on this until 2026. And then by that time, we have lost our guaranteed 4.2 guaranteed interest rate on the bond. And so we've heard from you. I hear you. We have decisions that we have to make in the best interest of the city and our public safety. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you all for providing feedback. And I hope to see you all on September 9th when we make the final vote. I genuinely appreciate all feedback, whether I agree with you or do not agree with you. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for coming out. Councilwoman Willis actually took the question that I was going to propose to Mr. Walls in reference to the referendum. So as you all know, we will not be able to put this on the ballot until November of next year. And as you all can see, it's been quite an interesting journey to get here today. So again, I want to thank you all for coming out. One of the things that I heard a lot of you all say was mistrust. It has echoed through this building tonight. We get it. We understand. We had some missteps. But what truly matters is leadership. Leadership matters. And when we think about leadership, leadership is about doing the right thing, but management is doing it the right way. So I want you all to understand that we are doing what we need to do in the best interest of the city. We've heard your voices loud and clear. We don't want to keep talking over you and not listening. We've seen the comments on Nextdoor. We've heard them. We've gotten even phone calls. I haven't gotten too many phone calls, just like Councilwoman Rao. But once we explain exactly what is taking place, the residents get it. So again, I want to thank you all for coming out. I do want to ask Ms. Wells if she could read a statement that we had from a resident on the tour that was very significant. And I want to leave you all with one thing. We cannot be a top city without a fire or a police headquarters. We cannot. So, Ms. Wells, if you want to read.
Can we let Dr. Rao go in there? Yes.
Okay, so I'll let Dr. Rao and then we'll go back to this.
I want to thank each and every resident who came out to this town hall. I would say, having been here 8 years, this is not easy work, but we have worked really hard to be great stewards of your money. And perception and reality are not always the same thing. Look at the facts. Look at the facts, not what you read on Nextdoor. It's so much information on our website. Do your own research. So I'll say that. And as we contemplate this decision, I will be looking at all options. I hear you and your concerns about just a complete lift of the cap. I hear you. So I'll be continuing to figure out what's in the best interest for the entire city, where we can address the needs of public safety, but also taking into account what I've heard from you today. So I'll be around for the District 1 residents. I see quite a few of you here. If you have additional questions, know I'll be here to answer them and get additional feedback.
And we pause just for a moment. This letter came in to our councilwomen as well as to city office, city manager, and myself from a resident who attended last week's bus tour. And the formal request asked that the letter to the residents be included in our formal proceedings and as a part of our city record. And it states, I'm writing to express my profound gratitude for the opportunity to participate in the recent South Fulton Public Safety Facility Tour. I also want to extend my thanks to everyone involved in the collaboration and coordination of this truly life-changing event. Your transparency and willingness to open your doors to the public was both brave and deeply impactful. The tour was more than just a walkthrough. It was an eye-opening and sobering look into the day-to-day realities of our first responders. Witnessing the conditions at the City Administration Building, the police precinct on Roosevelt Highway, and the fire station brought to light the urgent need for new facilities. These aren't just cosmetic improvements, they are vital to the safety, dignity, and effectiveness of our police and fire departments. The discussion about response times and the need for the city to have its own transport vehicles struck a deep personal chord. It brought me back to a fatal car accident on Old National on February 15, 2020. I was there administering CPR to a victim, and I still feel the memory of her life leaving her body. To this day, her face haunts me. Due to the mental trauma associated with reliving this memory, I am unable to be in person on Wednesday, September 3rd at Enoch Church while I cannot be there in person. I have attached a statement to be shared with the audience. I strongly believe if this timely medical personnel had arrived sooner, we might have been able to save both victims' lives. This experience makes it clear that investing in our own transport vehicles is not a luxury, but a necessity that could save countless lives. Chief Jones's heartfelt tribute to the fallen firefighter was a powerful and moving moment that I will not forget. It underscored that proper training facilities are a matter of life and death, not just convenience. Seeing the passion and commitment from each of you, despite the significant challenges you face, was incredibly inspiring. Thank you again for this invaluable experience. The tour provided irrefutable evidence of why this investment is so critical, and it has strengthened my resolve to advocate for these essential upcoming projects. I look forward to attending the ribbon cutting. Warm regards, Savitri Crenshaw.
Thank you. Thank you. As you have heard, we will be voting or not voting on this issue. We will be hearing this issue September the 9th, Tuesday, September the 9th at 7 p.m. at City Hall, 5440 Fulton Industrial Boulevard, 30336. It's going to be the first thing on the agenda. You don't have to come and stay till 9 or 10. We're gonna vote on it right at the top, so we're not going to hide anything from you. My phone number to this phone is 404-545-3900. It's 404-545-3900. I'm in a lot of meetings, but I am a texter. You can text me. On Mondays, we have Mayor Mondays. Anyone can come and get 20 minutes. You can come into City Hall. You don't need an appointment. And as I said, we'll be there September 9th. We are listening. We're going to continue to listen. And we are going to go far together. South Fulton forever, and have a good night.